Our focus reports have already tackled some of the big challenges of parenting today, from managing and limiting screen time to getting the kids to play outside. Today, our focus on parenting against the grain continues with a look at the stresses we all feel. Too many places to be and things to do, and especially if there are kids involved, too much stuff to buy.
As a parent, do you get the, can I have this, can I have that?
Yes.
You feel a little bit like you have to be explaining always your own perspective on saying no.
There's an awful lot of pressure, constant pressure to buy things.
But some parents are finding a way to counteract consumerism by prioritizing more and by spending and doing less. WGBH News reporter Stephanie Lydon takes a look at minimalist parenting.
Duck, duck.
Ask 11-year-old Emma Allen what she likes to do best, and it has nothing to do with the latest toys or electronics, the typical trappings of modern childhood.
I like to cook and bake.
And Emma has time, especially in the summer, to do what she likes. Creative play is at the center of her world, but it wasn't always that way.
She was my first, she was my baby. I wanted to give her everything.
And her mom made sure she had the best money could buy.
Whether it was the ballet class at 2 years old, to, the outfits that she wore.
Emma's classes, clothes, toys may well have continued to accumulate in their Wellesley home, but then Heather Allen gave birth a second time to triplets.
Our home looked like a daycare.
3 babies, a toddler, and 2 parents with full-time jobs. Something had to change.
I had to figure out what was really important, where to spend my time, where to spend my money.
At the moment when time, money, and living space were stretched to the max,
I started to become a minimalist.
Heather found inspiration in this book, Minimalist Parenting. It encourages parents not only to buy less, but also do less.
It's not, saying, I'm not going to have toys and I'm not going to have electronics and I'm not going to have my kids play sports. It's identifying which ones really add value to your life.
Heather now does something she rarely did when Emma was her only child. She says no to everything from the latest toy to birthday party invitations to scheduled activities. Check out all the free space on the family calendar. And on the living room floor. The Allens once considered their house too small, but found that with fewer things, there's plenty of room. But compared to their neighbors?
Do you feel like you're swimming against the tide sometimes?
Yes, absolutely. It could be toys that some children have, or vacations that others may take, or stories of the size of other people's homes. And that's where I stop and I question, am I not doing enough for my kids? Should I be giving them more?
That's exactly the question advertisers want parents to ask, says Susan Lynn at the Campaign for a Commercial-Free Childhood.
Parents are getting the message that they need to buy things for their children in order for their children to be able to play, to be able to learn, to be able to be happy.
abcmouse.com is a game changer for Alex. He's just so interested in everything.
Mom and Dad, of course, are not the only targets. Kids are too, like never before. In 1983, companies spent $100 million marketing to children. Today, it's over $17 billion.
It's really hard for parents because how can one family in isolation combat a $17 billion industry working day and night?
For the Allen family, it's a constant balancing act, weighing the consumer messages of the mainstream culture against their own priorities.
Having those candid conversations and taking that inventory that is the premise of being a minimalist parent. What is important? What do we need versus nice to have?
Emma and her siblings do have something essential, the freedom to follow their imaginations. And that's something money can't buy.
And one thing worth noting, the Allen kids do watch television, but it's generally with the commercials cut out, so they may indeed be being exposed to fewer commercials than other kids. At any rate, they do not seem to feel deprived.
Wow, that's amazing. 4 kids, all under a certain age. I'm pretty impressed. So I want to know about Heather. Did she become a minimalist parent all in one fell swoop, or how did it evolve?
Yeah, interesting question. She said it was a process, and still is a process. There's a lot of competing forces out there, a lot of competing messages. She says it's really a matter of sticking to her priorities and rethinking them constantly.
Thanks, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Our next guest wrote the book on minimalist parenting, literally. Christine Coe is the founder of the Boston Mamas blog. She's a freelance writer and she's a mother of 2. Welcome to Greater Boston.
Thanks for having me.
Christine, I want to ask you about how you came to this place. What were the first steps that you took to become a minimalist parent, and how has your family lifestyle evolved?
Well, you know, like Heather, as we saw in that clip, it's really been an evolving journey for us. It started when I had my first kid, and I really felt like I was overcompensating or trying to respond to the onslaught of options, and also just, you know, you want the best for your kid, and it's all coming from a really good place, but it can be very overwhelming.
You give webinars for parents who want to back away from the consumerist lifestyle and the overpacked helicopter parenting schedules. So what are some of the questions that come up again and again, and what's the advice you give those folks?
You know, I think one of the big challenges, not surprisingly, is people have a lot of questions about decluttering, just the stuff, the magnitude of things, and just then all the demands about time. You know, that's the other huge one. And in the work that Asha and I have done with parents online, we've really found that it's all about prioritizing, and it's not about cutting everything out, but just taking those small steps to trim back a little bit and see the impact and feel that breathing room.
I want to ask you how much about parents paring back, buying secondhand clothes, recycling, reusing, or simplifying their birthday parties. How much is choice and how much is financial necessity?
I think it's both. I mean, especially, you know, if you have a working parent situation and you need daycare, there are just so many expenses to think of, never mind saving for college and all of that. So I think, you know, you can have a mix of things. You know, we still will buy some things new, but for example, when I had my second baby, who was quite a 6.5-year gap from my first one, I had given away all of my things, and I had parent friends who said, "Can I please give this stuff to you?" and never give it back to me. So I had a secondhand baby shower.
This is very familiar. The exact same thing happened to me. I have 5.5 years between my kids, and my friends were like, "Take this out of my house, get rid of it, and pay it forward." And I passed it on to my friends when their kids came. I want to ask you, though, the consumerist part of this aside, how realistic is it for working parents, you know, those of us who are in the office all day long, to really create a life for our kids that's unscheduled? How does that work?
Well, you know, I can speak from my own experience. I think also part of it is going to be guided by what kind of kids you have. My older one is definitely somebody who loves to be unscheduled. So we've had to be really creative with our solutions. You know, trying to do as much village type approach where we're relying on other parents to swap play dates. It's been like that through the summer with camps and things too. So it's possible. It takes a little bit more work and a lot of texting.
So there is work. The demands that we have are still there, just in a different way, to figure out how to unschedule or not make it, you know, this camp, that after school activity, etc. But you still have to, you know, plan everything that you're doing the way you're talking about it. Or can we let the kids roam free on the streets like we used to when we were kids?
I know, it was a lot different. I would ride the T all the way to the end, and it was not a big deal. But, you know, I think really a big key to it is to really experiment with it and, you know, try to have just some open time and not schedule it and see what happens. I mean, it might be that you end up doing nothing, which is great, or that you're free for an unexpected fun gathering with friends in the neighborhood.
Right. Being open to whatever life brings you. One last quick question. How does minimalist parenting change as children get older?
Well, I think that's a really great question. It shifts from being about you and you figuring out as a parent how to provide and what to prioritize to really needing to listen to your kids more. They're going to be voicing their opinions a lot more firmly, and a lot of it, I think, is about letting go of your own issues and kind of letting your kids drive the bus.
Christine Coe, thank you so much for joining us.